From WLWT, this is Issues.
Hello everyone, I'm Curtis Fuller, and welcome to Issues. There are thousands of unsolved homicides throughout this country. The pain of not knowing is agonizing for families. What can be done to help families understand the many emotions to find closure and the options available to them to work with law enforcement officials to seek justice? In Greater Cincinnati, one organization leading the way is called You Can Speak for Me. This group works with Crime Stoppers to speak out against violence and encourage citizens, if you see something, say something. Today, the story of one woman's persistence to find justice for her son and many other victims, and the tears you don't see.
Daniel Chaz Dudley. He is my son. Like all my children, he is the love of my life. I carried him for 9 months, fed him clothing, and made sure his life was filled with love and a sense of feeling safe. Growing up, he was having fun and always quick to give you a smile. I made sure he knew how to find his way through church. He loved playing sports like most young boys do. He was my son and was full of life.
Cincinnati homicide investigators trying to figure out who was the trigger man that started shooting at people in a car right in the middle of the street.
Our heart is grieved, and now is our turn. It has come to our family.
Daniel Dudley's mom is leaning hard on those closest to her after her son was gunned down in Hartwell about 4 a.m. this morning.
How is it that you can have life and be happy and almost carefree one moment and then total chaos the next? Once a violent crime is committed, time and events and people going and coming almost seems like a blur. You're angry, then there's the dulling pain, and eventually you give into the blank emptiness and disbelief. Your intent is to be strong, accepting prayers from families and all God's blessings from friends that may surround you, with becoming only a distraction. But something deep inside you awakens like a hibernating animal in the spring. It starts with one hunting question. Someone stole my son's life, and I want to know who and why. As I got ready to put the last minute of my things in the car, I get this scream on my phone that Chaz is dead, he's dead, he's dead. And in my heart, I kept saying, Lord, no, it's not possible. This can't be. I rebuke this. But in my heart of hearts, I felt like something wasn't right. And I get to the hospital, and I could see everybody standing around just like as if they was waiting on me. They were looking for me. They were looking for my expressions, my emotion. And I said, where is my child? And they told me his body was evidence and I couldn't touch him, but I could look at him through a window. So as I looked through the window and they let up the blinds, his head was turning toward me, but he was covered he had like a white sheet or towel covered the top of his head and his body. So I just wanted to just say, get up. This is not happening. You need to get up. turned and I said, my children are in the hallway waiting. Can they please come in and see him? So as they came in, they were passing out where they had to take them out in wheelchairs. My other son he just ran through the hall screaming. It was just horrible to just go through that and stand there and try to be strong for my family because I know they were dependent on me.
It's been 10 years since her son Chaz was murdered in a senseless drive-by shooting while driving home from a nightclub that morning. She's like every other family that comes to her organization called You Can Speak for Me for help. They have this one message. Just because the media headlines have gone away, just because it seems the police are investigating other crimes, we, the family, still remember. We will use whatever legal tools available to find you and find justice.
Anytime a person loses a child, you have no clue of what to do. It's no rehearsal on how to handle the press or people coming up to you, or even how to handle a funeral when it's your child.
Miss Hope, as she is known, and all the families she is helping share a similar experience. She has woven the message of Stop the Violence into a movement in Hamilton and Butler counties. With the support of Ohio Attorney General Mike DeWine, her mission to help families has taken the form of passing out cold case flyers, bookmarkers, and her specially designed cold case playing cards that have been adopted into Ohio prisons and county lockup facilities. Her See Something, Say Something media outreach strategy has become an important tool for local law enforcement.
I asked the homicide department, do you pass out flyers or any information at a family, because I'm not experienced. I had no clue. They sent me to Crime Stoppers, which now I've been a member for 10 years. I received a flyer with a sketch, on chalk sketch, and they told me to pass it out in my neighborhood. I was so hurt. I just lost my child.
They want to grow up.
They want to grow up. They want to grow up.
Stop the shoot.
Stop the shoot.
Through her organization, You Can Speak for Me, Miss Hope attempts to help families affected by violence maneuver through the maze of media, funeral arrangements, and law enforcement. And what is most important, she assures families they are not alone. The grieving process and the search for justice is the same for all families in these circumstances. All you have to do is look into the eyes of another mother or father, and you'll see the pain in the faces of all of the grieving families. While struggling with her own loss, Miss Hope understands their sorrow can almost penetrate your soul. How do you begin to understand such a senseless loss? But the pain of losing her son is never far away. Remembering his birthday, holidays, and the anniversary of the shooting casts a huge shadow. It hovers, this feeling of loss that visits her like an unwanted gloomy day.
So what I did was, I did a bookmarker of my son with my prayers on it. And I started passing it out. And then I started sending it to the prisons and the jails so people could actually see that I was praying for justice. And this bookmarker was a part of my son and myself, of what I wanted people to see that happened to us.
During the holidays, posters went up in Winton Hills as families who lost loved ones to violence put the faces of unsolved murders out there, looking to jar some consciences.
Be accountable for what you know. Because that person that's sitting there telling you about all these crimes can't hold their guilt, so they pass it on to you. So you're just as responsible as that person, because now you've just carried his crime along with you.
One of the primary missions of You Can Speak for Me is to give families a new purpose and desire for justice instead of revenge, putting them in touch with other agencies to search for salvation instead of hate, Also, how to maintain connections with local law enforcement authorities to continue the search for those who know they are guilty. There are monthly meetings sponsored for families to come together and share their ways of coping. While trying to find closure, it's important that families learn that there are many others just like themselves, trying to move beyond the disappointment. You Can Speak for Me is one of a few local organizations that have recognized the National Crime Victims' Rights Week. Held in April, the summit for the past 10 years has become one of the most prestigious gatherings in Ohio, headlined by judicial, law enforcement, and first responders from across the state, discussing and answering families' questions about how this process works.
A lot of the families that I print for can't afford posters or flyers. So if I'm printing one, it was easier to print 2 or 3 and just put them on one sheet. I could print them personal reward cards for themselves and their families, and then be able to add that picture onto a community reward card and be able to put it out in the community and say, hey, this is what's going on in your community, and these how many unsolved homicides are in your community, and then it started growing from there.
Ms. Hope has received many awards over the years for her work as a family advocate. Just 2 weeks ago, she received the Crime Stoppers Board Member of the Year Award from police agencies in Southern Ohio and Northern Kentucky. Crime Stoppers honors and thanks the 2017 Crime Stoppers Board Member, Hope Dudley. While humbled by those she holds in the highest regard for their service, her message was still the same.
Thank you. It would be 10 years ago tomorrow that my son was murdered. A week after that, I sat on a Crime Stoppers telethon, and 10 years later, I'm still a Crime Stoppers board member. I'd like to leave you with, see something, say something. You can speak for me. Thank you. My child is a part of me. And every time I come up here, it hurts because I have no justice. And until I get justice for my child, I won't have no rest. I need to know what happened to my child. And I think it hurts so much because I don't know what happened to him. And I need people to come forward and help me.
There are good people doing good things in our Cincinnati community. In some cases, we may never know their names until tragedy strikes. For families affected by senseless crime, the pain never ends.
It was just a week of just trying to make arrangements and trying to pick out our coffin and clothes, and because my mind wasn't on anything, but I have to bury my child. It was just a nightmare that I just thought I was asleep and that I could wake up and this would be a bad dream. But every time I went to sleep, I could see that he was gone. He wasn't where he's supposed to be, and I couldn't hear him. I called his phone just so I could hear his voice. It was just unbelievable. Something I would wish on nobody to go through. That was the most horrible thing that ever happened to me.
It's good to know that Miss Hope's brand of hope is showing others in the community that families are still here, still vigilant for justice, long after the headlines have disappeared. Even as Hope Dudley continues her fight for justice, there are more tears you don't see. On April 25th of this year, shortly after midnight on Galbraith Road, Omar Mohammed was shot and killed. He was only 24 years old. His murder remains unsolved. He was Hope Dudley's great nephew. If you have any information on his case or any of the unsolved crimes on the books, call Crime Stoppers at 513-352-3040. You can remain anonymous. We'll be back in a moment.